We toss it now to Greta Van Susteren, standing by to go on. We'd love to see Greta there that night. It'd be fun. Greta, if you can come, we'd love to have you.
As long as I don't have to answer that question.
It's a hard one.
I'm going to have to buy my ticket, I'm afraid.
No, yours is free on me.
Those are the questions. All right, tonight, runaway bride Jennifer Wilbanks indicted.
This morning, the grand jury of Gwinnett County met and heard evidence from approximately 9:15 till almost 10:30. They've returned an indictment charging Jennifer Carol Wilbanks with one count of the offense of false statements and one count of the offense of false report of a crime. There were two witnesses called before the grand jury, Chief Randy Belcher of the Duluth Police Department and Investigator Jeff Lamphere of the Gwinnett County District Attorney's Office. The decision to bring these charges before the grand jury was based on a review of all the evidence that's been obtained to date, including the evidence that was obtained after the return of Jennifer Wilbanks. We believe that this is a reasonable next step in the case, and we believe that the grand jury made the appropriate decision. The first count of the indictment, false statements, which is a violation of OCGA 161020, is a felony. The second count, which is false report of a crime, is the misdemeanor.
What punishment does that?
The punishment ranges for the felony are 1 to 5 years, and the punishment range for the misdemeanor is up to 12 months in confinement. The next step in the process would be the issuance of a bench warrant for her arrest. I feel confident that arrangements can be made for her to turn herself in, and then we'll take the next step from there.
Let's bring in our legal panel in Santa Maria, California's former San Francisco Assistant DA Jim Hammer, in San Francisco Criminal Defense Attorney Jeff Brown, in New York former Westchester County Judge and current Westchester County DA Janine Ferris-Pirro, and in Washington former Homicide Detective and Criminal Defense Attorney Ted Williams. Jeff, I know how Janine, Jim, and Ted feel about it. They thought she would get charged and should get charged. That's what they said last night. It's your turn. What do you think?
Well, I don't think she should get charged. I think we've got more serious matters to address than this. And I guess I don't understand what the messages we're saying here. Are we saying that you can't lie to cops? Because we know cops can lie to a defendant, and they do that all the time. Or are we simply saying that they wasted taxpayers' money by not solving real crimes because they're worried about that? And if that's the case, I got a long list of acquittals where I think some cops are going to owe my clients a lot of money because they said my clients were guilty, and it turns out they weren't. So I just don't think that this is a case they should be prosecuting.
Jeff, there's a middle ground. Is it, look, there's a law that says you can't make false statements to police, so you do that and you violate the law, but there's a middle ground, which is the exercise of judgment that it may not be worth the resources, or she may have been punished sufficiently, even though she brought it on herself. But there's also that aspect of it.
Yeah, and I think if she had stepped forward, as they said earlier, if she had stepped to the plate, paid the money, not debated whether it should be $40,000 or $10,000, paid the money, made the public apology, and then ducked into the treatment, I think that the grand jury should have, or probably could have, or would have done something differently. So maybe it's in the way they handled it that kind of forced the grand jury to say, hey, listen, we now need to charge them.
I hear the groan, Janine.
Look. A grand jury is a group of generally 23 citizens. They're ordinary people. You know, I talk to them. That's not true. I talk to them all the time. I talk to them all the time. They dismiss cases. They remit cases. They do what they think is right. That's why we have grand juries. They are not a rubber stamp for the prosecutor. And the bottom line is laws are on the books to be enforced. The fact that you don't like it, you think it's too small, no crime is too small to be prosecuted, because if that were the case, we wouldn't prosecute quality of life crimes. We wouldn't prosecute the minor criminal mischief crimes. Everything needs to be prosecuted if the law has been violated. And make no mistake, there was a tremendous consequence to this. You had a nation on edge. You had people looking at her prospective husband as a possible murderer. You had law enforcement resources directed toward finding her instead of solving cases.
But those aren't crime. I mean, being a jerk to your fiancé or being nasty to your family, putting a nation on edge, it's the lying to the police and making the false statements a crime, not the other thing.
Those are the circumstances that the grand jury and the prosecutor will look at. There is prosecutorial discretion. A prosecutor can decide, I don't want to go forward with this, and if he doesn't or she doesn't, that's the end of it. But clearly, prosecute every crime.
Janine, there's a question mark here, and Bernie Grimm raised it last night. Is this the right and proper jurisdiction to prosecute this woman? She was supposed to have been in New Mexico when she made the call into Georgia and made these false statements.
So where's the fault?
To me,
are you saying that the false statement was made in New Mexico and not when it was sort of made it across the phone lines to Georgia?
well, by Pony Express, it did get across the phone line, but I do believe that there's a big question mark here as to whether, if anybody was going to charge her, she may have been charged in New Mexico, not in Georgia.
Jim?
Or the feds. The feds didn't charge her. There's a 1001 violation.
That's right. You're absolutely right about that, Jeff, for once.
But just because the feds didn't do it doesn't mean that for once. I'll leave that one alone. Jim, let me ask you the story about charging it. I mean, it's the grand jury that actually does the voting and does the charging. But in a case like this, can a prosecutor steer it towards charging or steer it away towards charging when you're in that grand jury room?
Absolutely. First of all, there are two decisions. The DA could have decided simply not to present it. That's the first exercise of discretion. But in any grand jury, the DA at the end of it, Greta, makes a presentation to the grand jury. And I've myself presented grand juries where I really wanted them to make a real decision, not just a formal decision. I said, do the right thing. So the people, frankly, if the DA asks them to indict it and the evidence there, they're going to do it. They're not going to override the DA. I think the next most important part, Greta, is what's coming up. The DA exercises discretion. Now he's got to decide what to do with this. This woman should not fill a jail cell, in my opinion. If she makes amends, shows contrition, pays what she can, we shouldn't fill our jail cells with this crazy woman,
Jim,
frankly.
what about the fact, Jim, does it matter that she's got, as I understand it, 3 prior convictions? Her criminal history.
It does to me. It does to me, but having looked from what we can see of that, Gene, I think this woman really has psychological problems, which is not to excuse her, but it's to say they ought to be addressed rather than filling the jail cell with her. That's all I'm saying.
Jim, actually the priors make a difference to me. Actually, she's in a different position than someone who doesn't have priors for shoplifting. That actually hurts her.
Right.
And that's why I want to know what's going on now in her treatment. I want a real psychological value. Even as a prosecutor, I want to know what's going on with this woman.
Let me tell you what's going to happen in this case. What's going to happen in this case is there's going to be a plea to the misdemeanor. She's going to make restitution. She's going to stay in this mental institution for a little while. That's my prognosis of this.
Yeah, no, you're right, Ted, you're right. That's what's going to happen.
Thank you, Jeanette.
And that's not a bad outcome.
Jeff,
Gene, you're wrong.
You guys are agreeing on the air. I lost my breath.
Jeff, what about the issue of the expenses? Should she pay? Should she pay?
Well, I think she should have paid it if it meant stopping them from filing a charge. But now that they're going to file a charge, I think there's a legitimate question as to what do you have to reimburse here? Are you reimbursing for overtime? Are you reimbursing for everything that the cop did? Because they certainly don't reimburse me or my client when we go to a trial and the jury says he's innocent, not guilty. They should have been solving real crimes, and they weren't doing that. They're out chasing my client, who wasn't the one that did it. So how come we're not getting reimbursed for that? I just think we're going down a slippery slope when we start doing this.
Tim?
But the problem with that payment issue is, what if she were poor and she couldn't pay off the cops? Does that mean that she'd get charged? I have a little bit of problem. Whatever she can pay, she should. But that should not be the element that she gets off the crime if she can pay for the cops.
Should she have to? Let's assume that. I guess we can't assume it. But if she had to make some sort of civil settlement for the costs of the extra police work, should she pay for any of the extra police work post-crime, which is when she made the false statements, allegedly? Or should she have to pay everything?
I think she should pay for everything that she caused. This woman set in motion that a lot of money, and I think the worst aspect, her fiance became a murder suspect. That's a horrible thing, Greta.
It is. That's not a crime. That's not a crime. It's not a crime.
But it's one of the facts. DAs look at all the facts around a crime, and that's one of the worst facts in my mind in this whole time.
It's about the tragic consequences. It's not. These are not things that happen in a vacuum. They affect people, a country, law enforcement, a community,
But it was the media that made it this big. It was the media that made it this big.
It's not about the media, because that town was looking for her in any event. Those law enforcement people were out there looking for her. He was looked at as a suspect in his community.
The media is making this a big event. The media is now making this a big event.
Greta, I want to know,
forcing the grand jury's hands.
As part of her probation, can we prohibit her from marrying for a couple of years? I think that'd be the best remedy to this whole thing.
All right, panel, on that we need to take a break. Thank you, Jim. Stand by. Coming up, Jennifer Wilbank's wedding jitters could cost her freedom plus tens of thousands of dollars. Why is the runaway bride negotiating with the city of Duluth? And later, the killer or killers who murdered 3 people in an Idaho home are on the loose tonight, and the 2 kids who lived in the house are still missing. Will the key clue turn up at the garbage dump?
Why isn't there a DVD recorder so easy to use that I don't hear Dad say words I'm not supposed to hear? Why isn't their defibrillator so easy to use that almost anyone can use it? Why can't technology be as simple as the box it comes in?
We think technology should simplify life, not complicate it. BMW 3 Series.
Hey, how's it going? Nice shirt. Listen, the bean dip's starting to get a little funky.
What?
Speaking of outdated, are you still watching digital cable?
How'd you get in here?
DirecTV has 100% digital quality on every channel. Digital cable calls itself digital, but it's not digital on every channel.
Okay, I'll get on that.
Hey, don't leave me in here with the Mushu pork. Dark and cold.
It's time to rethink TV. Sign up now and get over 140 channels for only $29.99 for the first 3 months. Call 1-800-DIRECTV.
What took you guys so long? They're all over 50.
How many are there?
Thousands. Look.
What are they? Servers. They're out of control.
I'm trapped.
This is out of our jurisdiction.
This is a crisis. Do something.
Take back control of your infrastructure. Get help with the scalable IBM eServer Blade Center featuring Intel Xeon processors.
Now patients can choose what they see and hear around them. So they relax, and doctors can get their work done more easily. Philips Ambient Experience. Suddenly hospitals no longer feel like hospitals.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lori Dew. The Pentagon says there are no credible allegations of U.S. personnel flushing a Koran down a toilet at the Guantanamo Bay prison camp. Referring to FBI documents obtained by the ACLU, a Pentagon spokesman said the same Gitmo detainee who made that claim to an FBI agent would not corroborate it to a military investigator. Republican Senator Arlen Specter is joining Democrats in urging the Senate to pass a bill giving stem cell research federal funding. Specter is battling Hodgkin's disease, a form of cancer some scientists believe could benefit from such research. The House has passed a similar bill despite President Bush's threat to veto it. First Virginia, now D.C. sniper Lee Malvo is going on trial in Maryland. He returned there today to face 6 counts of first-degree murder. He will not face the death penalty because he was a juvenile at the time of the 2002 shootings. Malvo is already serving a life sentence in Virginia for the murder of an FBI analyst. And Kia Motors is recalling more than 37,000 minivans. The company says the rear wheels of the 2003 to 2005 Sedonas could fail without warning and cause a crash. So far, no accidents have been reported. Kia dealers say they will fix any defective wheels at no charge. I'll see you in 30 minutes. On the Record continues right now.
Tonight, runaway bride Jennifer Wilbanks has been charged with lying to police about being kidnapped. But the criminal charges are not Jennifer Wilbanks' only problem tonight. Her disappearance set off a massive search that cost about $40,000, and city officials want payback from Jennifer's family. We spoke to Jennifer's lawyer a short time ago, and her lawyer said that an agreement had been reached in principle to pay the city its out-of-pocket expenses. Joining us from Lawrenceville, Georgia, with a live report is Andrea Simmons of the Gwinnett Daily Post. Andrea, any idea about what this cost is or what this number that may have been agreed to in principle?
Yes, they're talking about $13,000, which would cover the cost of the overtime that the city spent, and their out-of-pocket expenses such as for gas and for food. It's not going to cover the cost of the salaried employees, which what they were factoring in when they reached the initial figure of $43,000.
All right, so this started, actually, the first number I heard is $100,000, then drifted down to $43,000. Now it's down to 13. Maybe if we wait a little bit, it'll even come down a little bit more, I say, with some tongue-in-cheek. All right, now, the fact that she's been indicted by the grand jury, what are people in the community saying?
I think some people are pretty surprised that she got indicted on 2 charges, the felony and the misdemeanor, because most of the talk up to now has been sort of an either-or situation, and that was if she was charged at all. To see her get charged with 2 things is kind of an interesting turn of events, and people are a little bit surprised about it.
And either family, do you see in the community either family they're out talking or at press conferences or anything?
John Mason, her fiance's parents were there. Her fiance was not, but Claude and Vicki Mason were there. They did not talk to the media, but they were paying very close attention to everything Danny Porter said. I'm sure they were going to report back to their son today, and they're the only people that we've seen in public today.
Do we know where Jennifer is? She's said to be in some facility, but any idea, is it a local one?
I think it's local. I really don't have any confirmed information. There have been rumors that she's in the Gainesville area, but nothing confirmed right now.
Is John's life sort of back to normal in a sense, like is he back at work?
He's been staying pretty quiet and hasn't really been talking to people, including, from what I'm hearing, he hasn't really been talking to a lot of his friends, so I think he's still kind of processing all of this. I wouldn't say his life is back to normal by any means. His fiancée is charged with several crimes, so who knows how that's going to affect their relationship.
Do you have the sense that people are not indifferent? They're either one side or the other on this case, or are there some people that simply don't care in the community or are sort of indifferent to this whole story?
I think it's kind of polarizing. There are a lot of people that are sympathetic with her, and then there are people that are just completely fed up with the way that she's acted, and I haven't seen a whole lot of in between, to be honest. It seems to be one way or the other.
All right, Andrea, thank you very much. Coming up, investigators found very few clues at the Idaho crime scene where 3 people were beaten to death. Now they are planning to search a nearby landfill. Why there? Is there some gruesome clue that leads them to the landfill? A live report coming up. And later, comedian Chris Tucker takes the witness stand. What made him suspicious of Michael Jackson's accuser? And what warning did he give Jackson?
We're always live.
This program is brought to you by Nexium. Talk to your doctor about prescription Nexium.
We look all right?
Well, I take pain medicine for my arthritis.
She takes it every day.
I didn't know it could put me at risk for stomach ulcers.
She didn't know.
Oh, you didn't know either.
If you take certain pain medications on a continuous basis and you're 60 or over, you may be at risk for a stomach ulcer.
I didn't want to give up my pain medicine, so my doctor...
Dr. Wagner is a very smart man.
...prescribed Nexium.
To take with her pain medicine.
For people at risk, 1 prescription Nexium pill a day can help reduce the chance of a stomach ulcer caused by certain pain medications.
My doctor did say that headaches, diarrhea,
and abdominal pain
could be side effects of Nexium.
Talk to your doctor and find out if Nexium, the purple pill, is right for you. For a free trial offer, call 1-800-79-NEXIUM or visit us online.
Now she doesn't worry so much about ulcers. It's nice.
If you're without prescription coverage and can't afford your medications, AstraZeneca may be able to help.
You must be so excited.
Yeah. Actually, I've been wanting to talk to you about my life insurance.
I figured you'd want to make sure it's up to date. One thing I think you should look into.
There are times in life when you could really use expert financial advice. For more than 145 years, Northwestern Mutual and its products have quietly earned a most enviable reputation.
Might be your best option.
Yeah, that's a great
Isn't
point.
it time you had a quiet conversation of your own? Northwestern Mutual Financial Network. The Quiet Company.
Invention is greater than convention. Moving forward is greater than sitting still. Simple is greater than complex. Greater power, greater technology, greater beauty. The all-new Audi A6. It's greater to lead than follow.
Attention inventors, does this sound like you?
Hey, that's my idea. I thought of that years ago. I should have gotten a patent.
Who's cashing in on your idea? Do you need a patent? Call 1-800-405-1717. InventTech will help you protect and market your idea. We'll send you a free inventor's kit and a free DVD with your confidential submission. Call now, 1-800-405-1717.
Homeowners, if you're shopping for a home equity line of credit, Don't get ripped off. Call Countrywide Home Loans, because Countrywide offers no credit reporting fee, no appraisal fee, no loan processing fee, no closing costs. That means there's more money for you. As America's #1 lender, no one can do what Countrywide can.
Call now, 1-800-642-9721.
At this hour, 2 Idaho children are still missing and could be alive. And the killer or killers who tied up their mother, brother, and a friend in their home and bludgeoned them to death are still at large. Investigators are planning to search a nearby landfill tomorrow or on Friday. What are they looking for? Joining us in New York is forensic pathologist Dr. Michael Baden. Hello, Dr. Baden. And on the phone is former Los Angeles homicide detective Mark Furman. Mark, you've been to the site, to the Idaho home. I'm looking at this landfill. What are they looking for?
Well, you know, you kind of wonder if they're looking for a murder weapon, and of course, there could be items missing from the home, whether they're clothes or items missing from the victims that could have been disposed of that might render some evidence of the suspect, you know, and, you know, Greta, you know, of course, there could be evidence of the children's injury and or death, and you have to consider that. I don't find it to be much of a coincidence that the Amber Alert ceases and now we're searching a landfill. Now, we're not privileged if they secured this information, or maybe there was a fresh thought when some of the other investigators from other agencies came and looked at what's been done, but you know, I can't figure out any other reason than those items. I don't know. Dr. Baden's probably got some views on that.
You know, Dr. Baden, I'm usually pretty pessimistic, although I say, you know, we keep looking for a lot of these cases, but for some reason in this case, I'm optimistic these 2 children are alive. The fact that you've got 3 dead bodies and not, you know, 5 dead bodies, someone took those children. So I'm still optimistic they're alive.
I agree with you, Greta. I think there's a good chance and good hope that they're in somebody's care someplace and alive and well, or else they would have been killed right away. But as Mark said, landfills are good places where to hide bodies once a person is dead. We saw that with Lori Hacking in Utah. And the police may be searching there as just part of a thorough search to looking for the bodies, or they may have a tip, or they may have some information that they're going there. But it's 10 days now, and if a body or if a weapon was in the landfill 10 days ago, it's going to be covered by lots of other debris, and it's going to make it harder and harder to look for. But I think I'm hopeful, as you are.
Mark, even though landfill may be a good place, I don't know if that's the right way to describe it, to hide bodies, you live out there. It's a pretty rugged terrain. There are lots of good places so that you don't have to go to the landfill unless they have some sort of clue that there's been a delivery with something suspicious.
Greta, there is hundreds of miles where you can dispose of somebody and they would probably never be found, especially if nobody had a grid to work in. But, you know, we don't know if one of the tips or something that's been developed in the crime scene has led the investigators to believe that something occurred and something was disposed of. It doesn't have to be a body, but, you know, I think it's important that everybody must realize that although, you know, myself and Dr. Baden and yourself and all those investigators, they are hoping the children are alive. They have to do a 2-pronged investigation and or search. They have to do both at the same time. Whether it's distasteful or not, they have to consider the possibility and investigate it as such.
Dr. Baden, this crime scene bludgeoning 3 people to death, you'd think there are an awful lot of identifying characteristics of the killer or killers, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. I think they've got, the police, as Mark said, have a lot of evidence that we're not privy to. And they took their time, whether there's blood from a perpetrator, the kind of ties that are around the arms and legs, the kind of weapon. They must have a good idea of the weapon, and also they would know whether there was a search in the apartment, in the house, looking for something, because often when people are tied up before they're killed, there's an attempt to get information about drugs or money or something, and they know all that. So the police have a lot of information. They're waiting for FBI reports on fingerprints, on if they're bloody fingerprints would be important, and on whether or not there's anybody's blood other than the victims.
Mark, we only have a minute left. Possible motives, do you think, in this case? Looking at all the facts that we do know, we don't have many.
Greta, I think it revolves around methamphetamine, whether it's payback, somebody snitched somebody off, somebody thought they had a stash. I truly believe that would be it. It could be a home invasion robbery, but the home invasion part is to get drugs. I think the kids were an unforeseen, problem that arose, and I just don't see the kids as being the target of the crime.
And for some reason, I don't know why, and I haven't been out there, but for some reason I'm fixated on the thought that because the two kids aren't there, that they were the target, that they were sort of what they were looking for, but we don't have the facts, and we're still waiting to get more information. We're expecting more information on any sort of drugs in the bodies of the two of the adults who were murdered. Mark, Dr. Bowden, thank you both. Coming up, a witness in the Jackson trial says he saw someone drunk very often at Neverland, and it was not the accuser. Who was it, and why did the DA tell the jury? That's coming up. And later, police investigating the roadside murder of a Pennsylvania doctor just released this surveillance tape. What does it show, and could it help lead them to the killer?
You can help. If you have a tip about any unsolved mystery or crime, let Greta know. Email us at ontherecord@foxnews.com.
Last year, Norfolk Southern and its shipping partners took hundreds of thousands of freight loads off the highway. In fact, they've invested millions to convert even more traffic in the coming years. So it's easy to see how the economy won't be the only thing that benefits. Norfolk Southern, the future of transportation.
To help maintain a healthy heart, your body needs potassium, like you find in salmon. And almonds. As well as lima beans. But you wouldn't drink this stuff every morning when you could drink Florida orange juice.
With lots of potassium that's good for your heart. Florida orange juice. Healthy, pure and simple.
Designed to captivate. Designed to illuminate. The luxury sedan designed to outperform. Introducing the all-new M from Infiniti.
Veranda is a revolutionary material for decks and fences that resists warping, splintering, and rotting. It stands up to some of the most extreme conditions on Earth. Chances are, it can handle your backyard. And Veranda never needs sealing, staining, or painting, so you spend time enjoying your deck instead of working on it. Veranda, exclusively at the Home Depot. Right now, get a free $50 gift card for every $500 Veranda decking purchase.
Get ready for triple the action with all-access editions of 3 great movies. Now with more excitement. Oh, hell no. More adrenaline. Pizza! Run! More thrills. Hold on! And hours of never-before-seen bonus material. Buy any all-access edition and get movie money for Fantastic Four, coming soon to theaters. Gotcha. The world needs more energy and lower greenhouse gas emissions. And only one kind of power can deliver them both. That's why ExxonMobil is now making the largest ever investment in independent climate and energy research.
Tonight, Michael Jackson exercises his right to silence and the defense rests. KFI radio reporter Laura Ingle was in court today. She joins us from Santa Maria with a live report. I suppose it was no surprise that he elected not to testify today, but what happened, Laura?
We certainly had heard Chris Tucker was going to be the last witness, but I got to tell you, Greta, there was just a heartbeat of a moment. Right when Tucker left the stand, Tom Mesereau didn't say anything at first. It was that moment where we knew if Mesereau was going to put Jackson on the stand, this was going to be it. But then we heard the magic words, "Your Honor, the defense rests." And with that, the prosecution began putting on its rebuttal case. But back to Chris Tucker, the big closer for the defense. He told jurors that he grew suspicious of the accuser and his family. Now remember, Chris Tucker and the family and Michael Jackson were all hanging out around the time of the alleged conspiracy in this case. It's February and March of 2003. He says on a trip to Miami, he believes that the boy is unusually sophisticated, a little cunning at times, and trying to talk him into giving him things by saying, "Chris, I don't feel good. Can I have this?" Remember, the boy also is recovering from stage 4 cancer. So he says that something is starting to shake up in his spirit about this family to the point where he takes Michael Jackson aside and says, "Mike, something ain't right." That's a quote from trial today. But on cross-examination, Chris Tucker didn't seem to have a lot of the dates and times and places put together in his head when Tom Sneddon, the DA, had questions for him. As a matter of fact, he was shown a cell phone bill, and Sneddon was just trying to get him to answer some simple questions, and he couldn't even answer whether or not the cell phone number up on the screen was his cell phone. He was extremely combative at times. A lot of courtroom observers say his credibility was shot by the time he was off the stand. In the rebuttal case, we've heard from some former Neverland Ranch employees. The most important of the day is Jesus Salas. He's a former Neverland Ranch house manager who testified about seeing Michael Jackson ordering booze up to his bedroom. We had heard this during the prosecution's case, but what he brought today in the rebuttal case was a description of Michael Jackson falling down drunk at times with children in his bedroom. So now we've got a more severe image of Michael Jackson drunk and alone with the accuser in his master bedroom suite. Greta.
All right, Laura, stand by. Let's bring back our legal panel. Former San Francisco Assistant DA Jim Hammer and San Francisco Criminal Defense Attorney Jeff Brown. In New York is former Westchester County Judge and current Westchester County DA Janine Ferris-Bureau. And in Washington, Criminal Defense Attorney Ted Williams. Jim, you asked me to get some tape for you of Jay Leno to play for the viewers, so by popular demand, let's look at this Jay Leno tape called for by Jim Hammer.
I feel kind of bad because I grabbed a souvenir before I left.
Really?
I know you're not supposed to do that.
What did you grab, man?
Well,
you grabbed the camera?
Joey, see the judge gets that back, would you? Thank you, brother.
Jim, why do you want to see that? Why is that video of Jay Leno important?
Well, Jay Leno's only one of the many comics who've testified in this trial, but this morning, Judge Melville became the comic. First thing he said in front of the jury, "Has anyone seen my gavel?" Everybody in the courtroom laughed. It was an obvious reference to Jay Leno's monologue last night. The jury laughed too, only they laughed like they got it a little too much, like they were watching TV last night. It's one of the strangest things I've ever seen, is the judge starting trial with a little monologue and the jury laughing along as though they watched television about this trial last night, Greta.
Jeff, I like a good joke, and there's no one better at it than Jay Leno, but this is a trial where a man is could lose his liberty, and an accuser may have been harmed. Should the jury have been watching that? If the jury was watching it, any problem, or does that violate the rule against watching anything about the trial?
Well, I think it is a problem if they're watching this and they're hearing jokes that Jay Leno's saying about Michael Jackson. Whether or not it rises to the level of getting a mistrial, I don't think so. They're not hearing about comments that happened in court. They're not hearing about evidence. They're just hearing about jokes that are made on behalf of Michael Jackson. I think it's improper. I'm surprised that the judge would do that, and I'm surprised that nobody else is raising this as an issue, that the jurors are watching TV, because if they're watching this, what else are they watching? So I've got a problem with it. I just don't think it's ever going to rise to the level that it's going to cause a mistrial. But I think the defense attorneys should simply put this on the record and create this issue there in case, for some crazy reason, they convict Michael Jackson, which I don't think they're going to do.
All right, Janine, from both your roles, as a former judge, what do you think of the judge making that joke, number one? And number two, as a prosecutor, what's your reaction to that? Good humor or out of line?
Well, you know, it really is borderline, Greta, and what I'm concerned about the most is, look, these jurors knew, I mean, they were in the courtroom when Jay Leno testified, but But if they tuned into Jay Leno, they tuned into him to see what he was going to say about the case and the trial. And that clearly is improper and inappropriate, because when I was a judge, I mean, the one thing that you said every day before court ended was, do not discuss this case, do not read anything, do not watch anything. So that would be disregarding the judge's directions. However, having said that, you know, this doesn't rise to the level where I think it's going to impact on a conviction if there is one. And the judge certainly has the right to make a joke, but not necessarily to the jurors. I assume that he was probably trying to get the gallery to into some lighthearted, you know, trials are very tense. You know, this is a situation where the state is trying to put an individual in jail. You know, an individual is fighting for his freedom. I mean, and once in a while, a little levity really is okay.
You know, I like levity too, and I don't want to be a wet blanket. Go ahead, Jeff.
Since Laura and I need to get in the court tomorrow, can we say the judge has done a very good job and he has a good sense of humor?
All right, Ted, as I was saying, while Jim is so busy trying to buy his way back into the courtroom, and Laura too, I think, for some reason, I mean, I laugh at Leno's joke, but I don't laugh when it comes into the courtroom for some reason. I mean, maybe I don't know what it is tonight, but I don't think that's funny in the courtroom in front of the jury under the circumstances.
Well, I would wholeheartedly agree with you. Here it is, a man could very well be incarcerated for a criminal offense, and this is a very serious matter. And, you know, even though Leno is very humorous, and even though everybody laughs when he left the stand... He was
funny in pajamas with an umbrella. I laughed at that.
Oh, absolutely. But,
I laughed.
And everybody laughed when Leno left the stand yesterday. But again, this is a very serious matter. I don't think humor should be here, but to some degree, and that is where maybe the judge makes some lighthearted joke at the audience and not so much at the jury.
Well, but it wasn't a lighthearted joke at the audience. Yeah. I mean, Jay Leno was very funny. The judge has got a job in there. One is not to be like Jay Leno's straight man and bringing his jokes into the courtroom.
Yeah, but I think apparently there are two things I believe happens. Judge watch our show and he watch Leno.
Jim, save my seat, will you? I'll be out there. I guess I won't
Run around, Greta.
Panel, stand by. That's pretty stupid. I shouldn't have criticized. Coming up, when will Jackson's case go to the jury? Will jurors hear from Jackson's young accuser again before they begin deliberations? And later, this man has been named a person of interest in the cold-blooded murder of a Pennsylvania doctor along the Ohio Turnpike. Could a drug addiction help him avoid murder charges?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lori Dew. The House has passed a $491 billion defense bill, but a Republican amendment that would have limited the role of women in combat zones was not included. This compromise allows the Pentagon to regain control over which jobs women can hold, but it will have to notify Congress 2 months before making any changes in policy. Florida Governor Jeb Bush has signed a bill requiring doctors to tell parents if their young daughters seek an abortion. This applies to girls under 17 who are not married and who don't have children already. Now, exceptions can be made, however, based on maturity levels. The U.S. Supreme Court will review a parental notice law when it meets next term. A woman is under arrest for stabbing 2 people in a Maryland department store. Police say the first attack happened in the shoe department, the second on an escalator. An off-duty FBI agent saw the second stabbing and nabbed the woman. Both victims are seriously injured. So far, there is no word on any motive. And Shaquille O'Neal is giving new meaning to the phrase, the long arm of the law. Despite being knee-deep in NBA playoffs, the Miami Heat center is helping police track down online sexual predators. It's not just a hobby. Shaq has had police training and was recently sworn in as a U.S. Deputy Marshal. More news for you in 30 minutes. On the Record with Greta continues right now.
Up next on The Record, prosecutors in the Michael Jackson trial made a surprising request. What do they want to show jurors? Plus new information about the roadside murder of a Pennsylvania doctor. Does the person of interest in this case have an alibi?
Hey, let's check on the crowds at the Ace Hardware sale. Neil.
Yeah, Neil said he'd be right back. He's buying stuff.
The Ace Memorial Day sale. Great deals like $10 off 2 gallons of Ace Royal paint and free roller covers after rebate. Sale starts Friday at Ace.
There's an even better way to care for your nest egg. Objective financial advice. A.G. Edwards. For 118 years, fully invested in our clients.
not just another truck. It's the Honda Ridgeline. With four-wheel drive, a rugged, integrated closed-box frame, and a lockable in-bed trunk. Introducing the all-new Ridgeline. Above all, it's a Honda.
Documents start with people like you who have ideas to share. To bring your ideas to life, choose Sir Speedy. We understand the process of moving from ideas to documents. We have the expertise to enhance your vision and all the technology to make it happen. Whether your documents are electronic or printed, Sir Speedy's global digital network will help you create, manage, and distribute them more efficiently, wherever they need to go. Sir Speedy. We are documents.
Hey, Bob here. Quizno's new Choose 2 menu lets you pick any sub and any side salad, any sub and any soup, or an entree salad and any soup for just $5.89 every day. And I'm stuck with the choice of warm or cold milk.
Quiznos. Toasty.
What's the difference between 10:30 a.m. and 10:31 a.m.? 365,000 very obsessive people. UPS delivers more packages on time than anyone.
Dodge Durango SXT gives you so much more for less. We boosted power, increased room, delivered 5-star safety, and cranked up the tunes. All while lowering the price. Dodge Durango SXT. More give, less take. During the Dodge Memorial Day event, get great deals, plus May bonus cash, and make no monthly payments until November. Hurry ends soon.
Tonight on Your World, we are in Chicago, where, like other parts of the country, the housing market is hot, hot, hot. But is it a bubble, bubble, bubble? Why real estate tycoon Sanzel says no. And why bubbling crude has Wall Street worried again. The Dow's getting 45 points, the Nasdaq snapping its 8-session winning streak. And why Carl's Jr. is eating up all this publicity from Paris Hilton tonight.
The jury in the Michael Jackson child molestation trial could begin deliberations as soon as next week. But could the accuser retake the witness stand before the jury deliberates Jackson's fate? Let's bring back our panel. Laura, what is the business about the tape and about the accuser coming back to the witness stand?
This happened today at the very end of the beginning of the rebuttal case, I should say. The end of the day, the jury is cleared, and DA Tom Sneddon says, all right, here's what we want to do going forward into the rebuttal case. We want to play the police interview the child gave in July of 2003 for this jury in our case. Defense strongly objects and says, wait a minute, if you guys are going to play that tape, then we want to be able to put the accuser back on the stand, and we'll do a rebuttal case if that's what you want to do and how you want to play this. The judge is obviously such a volatile issue. He decided that he will make a ruling on that tomorrow, but now we've got the idea, you know, we were waiting to see if Jackson was going to take the stand. Now we're waiting to see if the accuser will return to the witness stand. A very wild ride at the end of the day here.
Jim, what's the sort of the relevance of the position of this? What's so important about this tape?
Well, I think it's extraordinarily powerful. I'll tell you, this boy, the accuser, held up better than his brother and sister. Nonetheless, he had some problems. If this tape comes in, and in it he looks very hesitant, unlike the guy coming forward saying, Jackson did it, I want the money, essentially. Or if he comes across as very emotional, something he did not do in the courtroom, I'll tell you, at the very end of the case, that could really help seal it for the prosecution. I think the defense is worried about it. I'm frankly surprised they didn't play it earlier after the cross-examination of the boy. But I think it could be a real bombshell. Again, if he comes off as hesitant and very emotional, that could connect with the jury.
Janine, why hold the tape if it is so powerful? Why hold it until now? Or is it not? Or is there an evidentiary ruling that I don't want to get too deep into? But
well, you know, Greta, I was trying to figure that out myself. I mean, something must have happened on the defense case where the defense, for some reason, suggests that, you know, as part of the fabrication, that there were some lies that leads them not to believe that the child's testimony is accurate. Therefore, the prosecution is allowed to bring back a prior consistent statement at a time when the child had no motive to lie. But the real interesting question is whether or not that opens the door to have the defense get the victim back on the stand. I mean, that's a real tough one. But I've got to say, apparently the defense opened the door, the prosecution has the right to do it, and I absolutely agree with Jim. If the boy is hesitant during this first interview with the police, then it's consistent with everything I've seen in all the years I've tried these cases, that initially the boy is a little shy, he's a little afraid, he's first disclosing. It is powerful stuff.
But, Jeff, you know, it seems to me almost toxic for the defense to bring the accuser back on the witness stand. I mean, the last thing the defense wants is the jury to remember there is even an accuser, and now they're going to showcase it as they bring him back. I mean, I'm not sure. I think it's just a threat to try to scare the prosecution off, unless there is something valuable the accuser could offer the defense.
Yeah, you just don't want to bring this kid back on the stand because you just don't know how he can connect now or what else he's going to say. They didn't want him to be called to begin with, but the prosecution did. They cross-examined him. I think it's a mistake too if they try to let him come back on the stand. If they've already discredited this kid, there's no reason to have him back on the stand.
Yeah, but
so.
they
It would be ridiculous and stupid to put this kid back on the stand.
How do you really feel?
And
How do you really feel?
I think it'll be stuck on stupid, and I'll tell you why. This kid has already come off as very shaky. If they put him back on the stand, I think it would give him the opportunity to possibly rehabilitate himself. I think it's just a bluff. It's a bluff.
Greta, you always ask the voodoo question. You ask it to Laura, which is good. But today I want to say, this evidence today that Jackson in those 2 months when the boys were there was intoxicated at least 4 times a week, and that 90% of the times that the boys were there, they were sleeping in Jackson's bedroom. That together, I had that funny feeling today, like something had changed. That the defense
objected that coming in.
That's what a rebuttal
objected that coming in, Jim.
It came in, and Mesereau tried to rattle the witness, saying, well, aren't you drunk around your kids sometimes? We laughed in the audience. The jury did not laugh. It's a very serious idea that Jackson is drunk with boys in his bedroom.
What's different if he's drunk? He's not charged with being drunk. He's charged with molesting.
It corroborates the picture the prosecutors have painted of this drunk Jackson with boys in his bedroom.
Greta, what the defense tried to do.
This is the rebuttal case, and it shouldn't have come in.
All right, I'm taking the final word on this, which is to say good night to all of you. Maybe we'll find out tomorrow what it all means. Anyway, panel, thank you. Coming up, the person of interest in the murder of a Pennsylvania doctor has a history of gun and drug arrests, but is he a killer? And do police have any evidence linking him to this murder? His lawyer goes on the record next. And later, dramatic video of a wild police chase. This subject found a spot where the police officers chasing him refused to go. Where did he hide? That's coming up.
Investigating, uncovering, and getting the truth on the record. Greta Van Susteren sheds new light and insight on the stories gripping the nation. Real journalism, fair and balanced.
We're always live.
This program is brought to you by Boeing. Forever New Frontiers.
He volunteered. We were drafted. She enlisted.
And off we went to Asia.
To Europe.
The Gulf. To do our duty.
Serve our country. We were buddies.
Shipmates.
Best of friends.
I'll never forget his courage.
Her dedication.
The way he made you laugh.
And I'll remember him.
Remember her?
I'll remember them.
Always.
When you're smiling, when you're smiling.
A.P.R printers and copiers. Simpler to use, network reliable, low cost of ownership.
The whole world smiles with you.
They're people friendly, only from A.P.R.
This is Take On Orbits.
Today's contestants need a hotel in Hawaii for under $100 with a golf course. Ready? Go.
Hotel reservations.
Yes. Orbits, it's that easy.
Why did your last diet fail?
If you're over 30, overstressed, and overweight, take a look in the mirror. You've got excess body fat around your waist, hips, and belly, right? Well, diet failure is not your fault. The problem is cortisol, a nasty little stress hormone that traps excess fat around the middle. But now there's Relacor. Relacor helps control cortisol and helps us lose stubborn belly fat fast. If you're dieting and still plagued by unsightly belly bulge, even if you're low-carb dieting, there's only one Relacor. Relacor helps you get thinner, look younger, and have energy to burn. Remember, when you're over 30, overstressed, and want to get rid of stubborn belly fat, the answer is Relacor.
Call in the next 15 minutes and find out how you can receive a 1-month supply of Relacor absolutely free. Call 1-800-884-6285. That's 1-800-884-6285.
Order Relacor now. It's easy. You'll love it.
Imagine a different kind of foundation that's actually good for your skin. Women across America are changing the way they feel about makeup forever. Almost 30 years ago, Bare Essentials started the Bare Makeup Revolution with the healthiest makeup on earth, Bare Minerals. Most makeup contains chemicals, preservatives and fillers that clog pores, irritate your skin, and emphasize fine lines and wrinkles. But Bare Minerals is 100% pure and natural. It's the perfect foundation for even the most sensitive skin. Just swirl, tap, and buff away the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles, redness, uneven skin tone, birthmarks, freckles, and blemishes. You'll receive 2 foundations in your choice of 4 skin tones. Plus, your satisfaction is guaranteed. Try Bare Minerals for 60 days. If you're not happy for any reason, just send it back for a full refund of your purchase price.
Call 1-800-622-4001.
The Ohio State Highway Patrol has just released surveillance video linked to the roadside murder of a Pennsylvania doctor. This video shows the doctor's wife and mother-in-law at a store counter, just miles from where he was robbed and shot in the head. Tonight, 23-year-old Damian Bradford has been named a person of interest in this murder, and his mother says he was romantically involved with the doctor's wife. Joining us live from Pittsburgh is Jim Ecker, Damian Bradford's lawyer. Welcome, Jim.
Good evening. How are you?
Very well. Jim, what kind of relationship, or what relationship at all, does your client have with the wife of the slain doctor?
Greta, they both, as I understand it, they both went to rehab together, Gateway Rehab outside of Pittsburgh. That's the relationship that I know of that they had. They both went to a rehab at the same time.
Is there anything more to it? Because I'm hearing that she got him an apartment, paid the rent, that there's a little bit more behind just that we attended the same rehab classes.
Well, Greta, I've been around a long time, as you have, and we all hear those kind of things, and I guess we won't know anything until we ever get to a courtroom, assuming we ever get to a courtroom.
Would you find that, if that's true, if it turns out that's true, would you find that a peculiar fact in light of the fact that a doctor shows up murdered in another state alongside a highway?
I must admit it's strange.
All right. Where was your client the night of this murder?
I really haven't gone into that as yet because, frankly, he hasn't been charged with anything yet, and there's no reason to even worry about a crime. The only thing I'm worried about right now, Greta, is a preliminary hearing we have coming up on Friday involving some small amount of drugs that they found in his apartment. That's all they found that I know of.
How did they happen to find the apartment? Was it pursuant to a search warrant in connection with the homicide?
Greta, they got one search warrant. This first search warrant was for anything dealing with the homicide. The second thing they got was after they went through the apartment, they did in fact find some drugs. When I say drugs, they found some hypodermic needles, they found some steroids. That was about it, and residue of something, which they don't even know exactly what it is. When they found that, they briefly went outside. 4 hours later, got another search warrant, came back, and a search warrant for the drugs. With that search warrant, they were able to arrest him, and he's under an unbelievable bond of $50,000 for what he's charged with. And because of that, his probation was violated, and the judge detained him. So no matter what his bond is, he's not going to go anywhere until the detainer is lifted.
In the course of all those searches, did they find a gun?
No, as far as I know, no gun was found, no shells were found. There was nothing that I know of that would involve a homicide.
Now, one of the reports is that the person who committed this homicide drove up in a dark-colored van. I don't know if that is a correct reporting or not, or whether the person was mistaken or not. Does your client have a dark-colored van?
I really can't answer that, Greta. I don't know the answer to that question.
In terms of this investigation, is it your belief that they're holding him on this violation, this parole violation or probation violation, because they really think he's a suspect in this murder?
There's no question in my mind about that. I'm sure of that. There's no other reason to do it this way.
Does he have any income or any job? Not that that matters, but one of the thoughts is that the wife was supporting him.
I know. That's what I've heard, that's what I've read about, and that's what I've seen on television. He does have employment from time to time. He does. As you know, both of those people you're talking about both had drug problems, and he's trying to lead a new life and do something with himself.
All right, Jim, thank you very much. I hope you come back as the case progresses. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Greta.
There is new information tonight about Dr. Munda's will and who stood to gain the most from his death. Joining us from Pittsburgh with a live report is Mike Vershagen from the Pittsburgh Tribune Review. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you.
Mike, on the will that Dr. Munda left, who stood to gain from the will when he died?
Well, according to the will, his wife has the right to live in his house for the rest of her life, as well as getting 20% of his estate.
And she's also entitled to a car of her choice out of, he's got apparently a number of cars?
Apparently, I don't know how many he has, but she does have the right to choose one car.
Do you have any idea what this 20% is worth? I mean, do you know the universe of his assets?
Oh, we do not know at this point, although we do know that the house itself is worth a little over $250,000 in Mercer County.
Do you know anything about the relationship that Dr. Munda and his wife had in the days, weeks, months leading up to his death?
Nothing more than has been in the news accounts. We really haven't gotten many people to comment on that.
What is your paper reporting about the relationship? When you say the news accounts, the viewers, well, I'm sure they'd all love to read your paper. Some are in California and don't have your paper delivered to the doorstep.
This is between, I'm sorry, Dr.
You mean the relationship between Dr. Munda and his wife?
Well, we haven't heard anything ourselves about that at all. There hasn't been any reports of domestic strife in the home.
What about the relationship that between Mr. Bradford and Dr. Munda's wife? What are you hearing about that, or what are you reporting?
Well, we're reporting based on confidential informants who have talked to police that, as Mr. Ecker said, that they met in rehab and a relationship began there. According to the informants, it was a romantic relationship and involved Ms. Munda buying for Mr. Bradford, renting an apartment, giving him gifts like clothing and shoes.
And how long had this relationship been going on?
Well, she entered rehabilitation in March of 2004, so it would have been sometime after that.
All right, and the police looking at, I mean, they're looking at him as a person of interest. They're looking at anybody else?
They do not have any other persons of interest at this point, not that they're naming.
All right, Mike, thank you very much. And of course, this investigation will go on. Coming up, a suspect takes California police on a wild, wild ride. The dramatic videotape is coming up. You don't want to miss this.
You take care of your body. So can your toothbrush. There is more and more evidence that oral health impacts overall health. So it makes sense to use the Sonic brush, used and recommended by more dental professionals. Sonicare, because your mouth is the gateway to your body.
The 2005 Hyundai Santa Fe comes with V6 power, standard. 4 airbags, standard. Traction control system and ABS, standard. With more cargo space than Escape or Equinox. Plus, America's best warranty. The 2005 Hyundai Santa Fe. And now at your Hyundai dealer, the Santa Fe comes with $1,500 cash back or 1.9% financing.
I think in order to run a company today, you have to have the ability to inspire others. Success is not an entitlement. It has to be earned.
We had a great dream to be the leading computer systems company in the world. First, my parents were pretty upset with me when I dropped out of college, but after a while they got over it. When I first came to Microsoft, my father asked me what software was. My mother asked a more interesting question. Why would a person ever need a computer?
I am still as inspired today as I was when I first joined the company.
A leader today needs to have a distinct view of where the business is heading, as well as a tremendous passion for getting there.
But it takes courage, it takes an entrepreneurial spirit, it takes vision.
As I look 5, 10, 15 years into the future, we're just scratching the surface of what's really possible.
Dell, Starbucks,
Microsoft, listed on NASDAQ. NASDAQ 100 companies.
Turn off the Ambilight function on your Philips flat TV, and it's like going back in time. The only flat TV with Ambilight from Philips. You'll never go back to ordinary TV.
This Memorial Day weekend, Fox News Channel Prime Time is live. The hottest topics, the biggest issues, the #1 lineup on cable. Memorial Day weekend, watch it live. The most powerful name in news brings you the most powerful prime time lineup. Sunday, they race against time and the enemy to save our wounded men and women. We go inside the medevac for a look at these life-saving missions. Plus, from hospital to home, we trace the heroic rehabilitation of one soldier. Join us for In the Field with Steve Harris.
Tonight, a wild police chase caught on tape. A Los Angeles man was being chased by police when he decided to make a run for it. He got out of his car barefoot and ran down a very steep ravine. He lost his footing and tumbled down a hill, a really big hill. When he finally stopped rolling, he tried to hide in a drainage ditch, but eventually he gave up. Thank you for being with us tonight. I'll see you all again tomorrow. Until then, keep it right here on Fox News Channel, the most powerful name in news. Good night.